Coming up on this edition of Chris 6 Sunrise, a suspect wanted in connection with the shooting of Minnesota lawmakers is in custody. We'll have the latest from Scripps News Group, Stephanie Liebergen, coming up.
And here at home, Corpus Christi police continue their promise to crack down on reckless drivers. How many drivers they say were arrested over the weekend, plus
turning heartbreak into hope. I'm Ana Conejo on the south side, showing you how a woman is turning the tragic death of her granddaughter into a mission to help protect others.
Good morning, folks. Happy Monday and welcome to Chris 6 Sunrise. You're waking up with the Hoffmans. I'm Michelle Hoffman.
And I'm Brian Hoffman. It was a crazy little show this morning driving into work. And let me tell you, folks, you might be lucky right now because when we were driving into work, you had to go like 5 miles an hour. Visibility was just a couple feet. It was insane. On how the traffic conditions are right now, we turn things on over to the woman of the hour, Stephanie Lauber. Good morning, Steph.
Good morning. We are looking at some ponding on the roadways here from the city's camera at Aquarius and Park Road 22. Park Road 22 tends to be a flood-prone roadway, and that is what we're seeing this morning. Very heavy rainfall fell across the island. A lot of that heavy rainfall has now moved inland, but we still have a little bit of a river here on the shoulder of Park Road 22 at that intersection. So expect to need to slow down this morning wherever your commute takes you, but especially out here on Park Road 22. Now, what we're seeing once you hit the roadways doesn't seem to be very problematic. Here's the slowdown along 361 at that intersection, but heading over Park Road 22 to the JFK Causeway, problem-free. We're looking good into the bluff, except if you're heading toward NAS Corpus Christi this morning. Speeds have been pretty slow. We're seeing those backups now go down NAS Drive, so expect to have a slow commute. Good thing Northgate should be opening here as we move through the 6 a.m. hour. The rest of the bluff, as I mentioned, looking good. Pretty typical for this time of the morning in Corpus Christi proper from the south side up to the Bay Area. Not very eventful. Looks like folks are taking it easy, driving safe this morning, and we need to continue doing that. I'll tell you when the rain is expected to wrap up in your weather on the 6s.
Steph, thank you for that. We're going to get you neighbor news in just a little bit, but first, some national headlines for you. The suspect in the Minnesota lawmaker shootings is now in custody. 57-year-old Vance Bolter is accused of killing Democratic State House member Melissa Hortman and her husband at their Brooklyn apartment home on Saturday. Now, Bolter is also accused of wounding State Senator John Hoffman and his wife only a few miles away. A massive manhunt for Bolter was launched involving federal, state, and local law enforcement. The 43-hour search was described as the largest manhunt in Minnesota history. Scripps News Group Stephanie Liebergen will be joining us at 6:10 with the latest.
Iran launched another massive barrage of drones and missiles at Israeli cities early yesterday. Now sirens wailed through the night as missiles struck Tel Aviv, Haifa, and other cities. The military has widened its targets to include oil depots, missile systems, and nuclear infrastructure. At least 150 people have been killed since the fighting began, with hundreds more wounded. Now, President Trump is in Canada today, where he is attending the G7 summit. It's his first time back to the summit since his re-election. Tensions in the Middle East are sure to take center stage at the talks as attacks between Iran and Israel ramp up. Now, international trade is also likely to be a key topic. The president's 90-day pause on reciprocal tariffs on all trading partners will end in 3 weeks unless nations can strike a deal with the U.S.
Back here at home, the Corpus Christi International Airport became a temporary home for many travelers overnight. The late-night storms caused a number of flight delays. Flights were also redirected to the airport, with some of the passengers stranded here, having flights delayed up to 19 hours. And Corpus Christi police continue their crackdown on reckless driving. Over the weekend, CCPD arrested at least 3 drivers. 2 drivers were arrested for reckless driving along Ocean Drive. A 3rd driver was arrested near Airline and Williams for reckless driving as well. The 3 of them are facing charges, multiple different charges, that is.
Turning heartbreak into hope. I'm Ana Conejo on the south side, showing you how a woman is turning the tragic death of her granddaughter into a mission to help protect others. 2 years have passed since Soraya Reese died. Police say the teenager was stabbed to death by her ex-boyfriend. Rita Allen and family have started an organization created to help keep the 15-year-old's legacy alive. This includes guiding teens with tips on how to handle unhealthy relationships, hotlines to call, and more. Rita Allen says she's in the process of turning her organization into a nonprofit.
Several neighborhoods in George West were hit with an EF0 tornado Thursday morning, according to the National Weather Service. Now, homeowners like Roger Holmes tells me he's working on the damage to his back porch before he starts picking up the broken tree limbs that are all over his front yard. He's thankful that the tornado wasn't any stronger.
Now, we want to say thank you to everyone who took part in our annual Flag for a Flag event. All of those flags that were exchanged for a new flag on Friday will now be honorably retired. The flag retirement ceremony will be held this morning at 10 at the Coastal Bend State Veterans Cemetery. And of course, the public is welcome to attend. You can also watch it on christv.com.
Hey there, good morning. What an active start with thunderstorms roaring across Nueces County and now moving into Jim Wells and Clayburgh County. A little bit of that rain also moving north toward Aransas and San Patricio counties, but the heaviest rainfall by far has been south, and it's kind of this curving motion as low pressure triggers a lot of these showers and storms. It tends to move counterclockwise. That's what we're seeing on the radar. But look at those bright colors just to our south. Clayburgh County now seeing officially the heaviest rainfall because that's where we have our yellows, oranges, and reds. Alice, the heaviest rainfall has not only moved past town, but we're actually getting a bit of a dry spell right now. So we'll zoom into some of the neighborhoods impacted by this rainfall. Flooding concerns along the 77 corridor, neighborhoods near Kingsville, Bishop, and Driscoll this morning on account of this heavy rainfall, as well as the south side. I just showed you the view along Park Road 22 in Aquarius from the city's camera out there, and we've got ponding on the shoulder of the road, a lot of it. Please be careful no matter where your commute takes you this morning. But yeah, a big light show around the coastal bend, even where we've begun to dry up a bit. Places like Flower Bluff, as well as out along the island. A lot of this rain continuing to move north toward Port Aransas, Aransas Pass, Ingleside, and Portland. You'll get another round too. But let's zoom in closer with the Chris 6 Neighborhood Weather Network. It's powered by Tempest weather stations across all of our neighborhoods. So thank you to those who have them, because we can use your data and share them with your neighbors here on air. 31-mile-per-hour wind gusts, the highest so far reported at our Granada Drive station today. 20 miles per hour now at Vortex 3, so that has increased. And the lightning show has just been phenomenal here across the south side. Anywhere from about 4,000 to nearly 4,500 lightning strikes recorded in the last 3 hours. And when thunder roars, we need to go indoors, even if you're not immediately hearing it. If you can see that lightning, if you can hear thunder, you need to do your best to not be outside. But winds have not been quite as strong here on the south side. The highest reading we've had so far is 34 miles per hour off of San Benito Drive. And these gusts at times can be pretty impactful, taking down trees across some neighborhoods as we've seen. So again, even though we haven't had a severe thunderstorm in Nueces County this morning, we need to take it slow and anticipate a bit of a tricky commute. Wet roadways across downtown. Even as we start to see some clearing in the sky, that thunderstorm to the north of the bays over San Patricio County visible from our camera here atop the studio at Chris 6 News. And as we go through our check of what's going on in your neighborhood, still a lot of rainfall being reported. Visibility seems to be doing okay because of that wind. But where we have rain, you can expect some trouble. We'll continue to track this for you in your Weather on the 6s ahead.
A historical landmark in Corpus Christi is getting a fresh start. I'm Alexis Scott in Heritage Park, and I'll take you inside the restoration of the Littles Martin House and the significant legacy it represents.
Plus, Scripps News Group Stephanie Liebergen is joining us after the break. She has the latest on the Minnesota lawmaker shooting.
Hey, welcome back, folks. 6:12 this Monday morning. You're getting a live look from our SPID Skycam looking pretty okay so far, but folks, you just saw it right there. There's some lightning. We're seeing a very stormy morning, so make sure you're careful when you get up and hit the roads this morning. Of course, we will check in with meteorologist Stephanie Lover in just a bit, but first we have some of your national headlines.
That's right. The suspect wanted in the Minnesota lawmaker shooting is now in custody. 57-year-old Vance Bolter is accused of killing Democratic State House member Melissa Hortman and her husband at their Brooklyn Park home earlier on Sunday.
Now we have Scripps News Group Stephanie Liebergen joining us live with the latest on Bolter's arrest. Good morning, Stephanie. So what have you found out so far?
Hey, Brian and Michelle, good morning. Well, police were able to zero in on a wooded area outside of Minneapolis yesterday after finding the suspect's vehicle abandoned in the area. He has a home nearby, and finding that vehicle, zeroing in on that woods, sparked a really organized search by officers yesterday. They spent hours on the ground, police on foot, a helicopter in the air, trying to hunt down Bolter. Ultimately, when they did find him, he crawled out of the woods and he did surrender to police. After that surrender, he has, of course, since been booked, formally arrested and booked. He's got a $5 million bond. He's been charged with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of attempted murder. We heard from one of the senators from Minnesota, Amy Klobuchar. She thanked the law enforcement for their efforts over the weekend. We heard something similar from the Minnesota governor, Tim Walz, who really thanked them for their efforts for this manhunt being less than 48 hours and for all of the officers who had to spend time away from their families on this Father's Day weekend as this manhunt was underway, the largest manhunt in Minnesota state history. So now that Bolter has been arrested and is in custody, his first court hearing is set for 2:30 Eastern this afternoon. The one big question that has not been confirmed and we don't have yet is exactly what the motive was in this case. But of course, with 2 state lawmakers being the ones that were targeted, it's hard to see how politics doesn't play some kind of role. But that motive certainly has not been confirmed by police yet. That's one of the big questions that we don't have an answer to on this Monday morning.
Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for the information so far.
Yeah, we appreciate the insight. Looking forward to talking again soon.
All right, rain, come this way. It sure did, and it's coming down in buckets. So here's a look at what's going on with the radar across coastal Bend. One area of focus being Claiborne County now as things start to wind down in Wessex County. Still, lots of water on the roadways because of the heavy rainfall we've seen this morning. So give yourself some extra time no matter where your commute takes you this morning. I'm going to zoom in closer now to that active weather in Claiborne County. So Kingsville definitely getting a heavy hitter right now, and this storm is pretty sporty. We've seen wind gusts up around 50 miles per hour near this area, and just buckets of rain as noted here from the yellows, oranges, and reds on the radar. But if we look at some of the rainfall that has been coming down, we are looking at buckets in some neighborhoods. So please be careful as you head up and out the door. A lot of rainfall to speak of here across the coastal Bend. We need it, so it's definitely helpful, but we could use it not all at once, right? Well, things are starting to wind down for some neighborhoods, and we can see that across the bays from our studio Skycam over downtown Corpus Christi. Some very shiny pavement here with lots of ponding on the roadways, but yeah, there's that clearing starting to take place on the left side of your screen there behind the towers on Shoreline. But taking a look at our reporting stations around the coastal Bend, we still have a good deal of rainfall in Port Aransas, at the airport here in Corpus Christi, as well as in the Bluff at NAS Corpus Christi. Even though that rainfall is lessening in intensity, it's still making those roadways a bit problematic, so please be careful. Visibility not too bad. We have some wind to keep things shaking and moving, but of course if you're driving in one of those downpours along 77 in Claiborne County, you're not going to have the best time. Reduce your speed, leave early so that you can take it slow on the roadways, and we should have a better time. But better times are ahead once we dry out this morning. We'll be looking at a mix of sun and clouds, so a completely different picture as we go through the next couple of hours. That, depending on how long some of these showers linger, that tends to cool the air. So we might be off to a cooler start by the time things wrap up. And depending on when they do exactly will influence how quickly we get to the 90s heading into this afternoon. Right now, it looks like we'll be there around lunchtime, but we'll have a breeze also from the southeast in general from about 15 to 20 miles per hour. And heading through the evening hours, things will wind back down to those upper 80s around sunset. So heat risk not unbearable today. We're looking at a moderate heat risk shown here in orange for coastal parts of the coastal bend, as well as the brush country, where things may even spark up to that 3 out of 4 shown there in red, major heat risk. We're looking at this creeping on up tomorrow as well as Wednesday, but just in time for rain chances to move back into the mix. So yes, believe it or not, despite the rainy start today, this is not the rainiest forecast of the week. We're looking at better opportunities for rainfall scattered in nature as we go from Wednesday through the early part of the weekend here. It looks like we'll be dodging showers even as we head on Saturday and Sunday. Hopefully we can get those in the watershed and keep up the trend that we've seen in improvements at our area reservoirs. More on what to expect in the 7-day forecast coming up.
Money to expand. I'm Erin Holly on Padre Island, telling you how money from Nueces County leaders will impact animals at the Texas Sea Life Center.
And also coming up after the break, have a look at your gas prices around the coastal bend and around the country. Welcome back, folks. Well, with the trouble in the Middle East that's happening right now, it is a more important time than ever to track those gas prices for you across the coastal bend as well as across the country to save you that extra little bit of money. Let's start with a look at our national prices. According to GasBuddy, a gallon of gas will cost you on average $3.09. That is actually down about 3 cents as of Friday. As for Lone Star State, sitting at $2.70, so a bit better than national. That's also down by 3 cents since Friday. We can always do better here in the coastal bend, though, right, folks? Here in Corpus Christi, second and third place are actually tied at most of the stations I was able to find on GasBuddy at $2.46. First place goes to the Sonoco on Rodfield Road and Holly Road. I'm going to check in on over there. But even better prices are for our Portland friends for like the 7th or 8th week in a row. The Murphy USA right next to Walmart, $2.26. Might be worth taking that trip over the bridge to get those cheaper prices, right, folks? Well, if you're going over the other bridge on the island, looks like the cheapest price is $2.57 at most of the stations on the island.
All right, heading out the door, no easy task this morning, but at least we're looking better from this view. The First Community Bank camera. We haven't seen the light show since we've had the camera up. All right, we're good. No lightning. Okay. Well, we still have lots of water on the roadway, so please be careful as you head out, especially for our neighbors who are going to be taking 77 through Clayburgh and Nueces counties. That's where we've seen a lot of heavy rainfall happening now, especially in the Kingsville area. So the ride between Portland and downtown Corpus Christi is looking good so far. As you get into downtown, some ponding out on a couple of roadways, slowing things down, but nothing major at this point. Across from Bay Area down to the south side, all the major thoroughfares are looking pretty good this morning. It's the crawl to NAS Corpus Christi we've been tracking in the Bluff. Those speeds are rebounding back up to around 10 to 15 miles per hour here. The rest of the Bluff looks pretty typical for the morning time frame, and if you're heading out to the island, just be careful with some of the ponding on Park Road 22. We were showing the city's camera at Aquarius and Park Road 22 where there's a big pond on the shoulder. So please be careful as you head out. Make sure you stay safe and you drive safe. Your forecast is ahead.
I'm John Matteries. Home flipping is hot these days, and a freshly rehabbed home usually looks great. Unfortunately, before you buy one family has a warning about some things that can go terribly wrong.
Now, weather on the 6s.
Hey there, good morning. A gorgeous view from the Wada Skycam. What a sunrise. We're seeing some thunderstorms clearing to the north, but along SPID, it's looking like a bit of a mess here. A lot of spray behind the vehicles and ponding on the roadway, and at that, rainfall's kind of tapered off here quite a bit. Where we're seeing a lot of rainfall happens to be in Clayburgh County near Baffin Bay, extending out toward Kingsville right now. That's where we still see very bright colors of yellow, orange, and red on the radar. And this has been kind of moving south along the 77 corridor. So please be careful in this area. Flood advisories have been issued this morning where we've seen the heaviest rainfall. And right now, this is one of them, and it's on its way down toward Riviera. So our neighbors there will be seeing a good deal of heavy rainfall moving in probably in the next, say, 10 to 15 minutes. So please be careful. And if wherever you're traveling this morning, it's Monday. We've had some rain overnight. please give yourself enough time to take things slowly this morning and arrive safely. But looking at the Chris 6 Neighborhood Weather Network, powered by Tempest, we are tracking some very cooled temperatures. Not seeming that way because this is still warm, low to middle 70s across the board here, but Bishop Badger Meadowbrook reporting a temperature of 72 degrees, 76 off Southwest Kingsville reporting station, and 76 off East County Road 2120. And where we've seen the rainfall, it's kind of a mixed bag here. Some of these stations updating a bit sooner than others, but it's also a matter of where we've seen the heaviest rainfall. Bishop Badger Meadowbrook winning here with nearly 3/4 of an inch of rainfall just this morning from that heavy downpour moving across the area. And we still have wet roadways here in downtown Corpus Christi, where the rain hasn't even been quite as intense as our neighbors on the island, the south side, and now Kingsville have seen, but it is a bit pondy out here, if we can call it that. Give yourself some extra time before you head up and out the door. I'll look at current conditions in your neighborhood. Look like this. We've got 70s across the board. We started out with some 80s, but the rain has really cooled things down. And even as the nasty weather winds down this morning, you'll want to give yourself some extra time because even though we didn't have severe thunderstorms, we had some pretty gusty winds. That has blown trees over. You may see some debris in the roadway. Give yourself some extra time. But the trade-off is the weather is going to be a lot nicer as we head through the rest of this morning and the afternoon. Now that we're starting to see this rain taper down, I do think we'll get to those 90s around lunchtime and stay in those low to middle 90s through the heart of the afternoon. A good southeast breeze, 15 to 20 miles per hour to keep things a little more tolerable out there, but heat risk still going to be something we pay attention to. Moderate heat risk for a lot of neighborhoods today, most neighborhoods tomorrow, and all neighborhoods as we get on into the Wednesday time frame. That's just in time for rain to move back into the forecast. So looking at the later part of the week, we'll be tracking widely scattered showers and thunderstorms moving from about Wednesday evening on into the early part of the weekend. We'll continue to keep an eye on this because by the weekend, that's a couple days out. Confidence starts to drop off, but I'll continue to watch what to expect for the weekend weather as we head into the middle part of this week. Still expect a good drink of rainfall, and this is good news because as this continues, it helps. Obviously, we've seen improvements across our lake levels just from the rainfall across central and south Texas, as well as here locally within the past week. But with more rainfall happening repeatedly, that does continue to help our drought situation overall. Plus, it's a nice way to kick off the first day of summer. A couple of those warm, humid showers to help bring back some of the summertime green grass, maybe do a little bit of mowing and gardening. If we can start getting things in the right direction, we can start dropping off those water restrictions. But we'll keep an eye on how the forecast trends coming up.
Broken limbs and much needed porch repairs. I'm Melissa Trevino in George West, talking with a homeowner who is looking at the silver lining hours after a tornado hit his home.
Now, say hello to your neighbors. This is your Chris 6 News Sunrise Shoutouts.
Hello, Chris 6 Sunrise team. We're the Purple Door in the Central neighborhood, and we want to wish our neighbors across the Coastal Bend a great morning and a great day.
Hey, we hope our neighbors over at the Purple Door also have a great morning and a great day. And folks, if you want to send us your own shout out video, all you have to do is scan the QR code right there on your screen or go to our website, christv.com.
Well, no matter where you're going, there are reports of people in the U.S. being exposed to measles. And as you travel this summer, health officials are urging you to stay safe. Mandy Gaither has more on how to pack virus protection into your travel plans.
It's a highly contagious disease, easily spread through a cough or sneeze. Measles cases continue to climb in the U.S., prompting an advisory from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, warning of exposures during summer travel.
I think there are a number of viral infections that we need to be concerned about when traveling or just in the summertime.
Dr. Daniel Koritskis with Brigham and Women's Hospital says the best protection against measles is vaccination. The CDC advises the virus can live for up to 2 hours in the air or on surfaces, and an infected person can spread measles up to 4 days before until 4 days after their rash starts. The measles vaccine is routinely given to children in 2 doses, one typically between 12 and 15 months, the other usually around 4 to 6 years old. But adults who haven't been vaccinated or are unsure of their vaccination history should also consider the vaccine.
In some circumstances, it might be appropriate for infants to get immunized, even if they're younger than 15 months.
Other viral travel threats, norovirus. Kuritzka says hand hygiene can help protect against that virus. And there's still COVID-19. He says cases typically tick upwards during the summer.
If you are somebody who's 65 and older or have a medical condition that puts you at greater risk for severe COVID, and you're going to be in crowded situations, especially indoors, then you should seriously consider getting a COVID booster if you haven't already done so.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Hey there, good morning. Giving you this 4-panel view of conditions around the coastal bend and specifically Corpus Christi. So bottom right, what a Skycam shows you thunderstorms starting to clear up toward the north, but toward the south, we have more heavy rain happening in the Kingsville area right now. But still, even as the rain winds down, that top left there, a lot of ponding on SPID. So the heaviest rainfall, of course, as I mentioned, to our south. Look at those bright yellows, oranges, and reds. Baffin Bay just getting a dumping of rainfall, and that extends just to the south of Kingsville on the way toward Riviera. So if your travels take you along 77 this morning, watch out for that heavy rainfall. But if you're trying to plan a dog walk, not going to be a bad one. This is going to wrap up and we'll have a nice day ahead of us. So our dog walking forecast start today. Shelby is in for another photo op that makes for great sunshine there. And as we continue into the afternoon, we might want to make those walks more frequent but shorter because the heat will be on pretty quickly. Temperatures getting to the upper 80s, and while we'll still have a breeze around 15 to 20 miles per hour this afternoon, heat becomes top of mind. As our temperatures rise to those lower 90s for much of the afternoon, we are going to be feeling like the triple digits, so you want to make sure you're staying hydrated and of course checking in on kids, pets, and the elderly. They are more susceptible to heat-related illness. Once this rain dies down, we're looking at a better opportunity for rainfall as we head into the later part of the week, say from about Wednesday on into the weekend. And as we look at the 7-day forecast, that also coincides with the start of summer, so that could be off to a wet start. It'll keep our temperatures a bit cooler, which might be a relief with the heat we're expecting Wednesday and Thursday.
From Chris 6, this is 20 minutes of non-stop news.
Hey there, folks. Thank you so much for joining us for our 20 minutes of non-stop news with the Hoffmans. I'm Brian Hoffman.
And I'm Michelle Hoffman. Of course, we'll check in with meteorologist Stephanie Lauber in just a bit. But first, here's your neighborhood check-in.
Turning heartbreak into hope. I'm Ana Conejo on the south side, showing you how a woman is turning the tragic death of her granddaughter into a mission to help protect others. 2 years have passed since Soraya Reese died. Police say the teenager was stabbed to death by her ex-boyfriend. Rita Allen and family have started an organization created to help keep the 15-year-old's legacy alive. This includes guiding teens with tips on how to handle unhealthy relationships, hotlines to call, and more. Rita Allen says she's in the process of turning her organization into a nonprofit.
Several neighborhoods in George West were hit with an EF0 tornado Thursday morning, according to the National Weather Service. Now, homeowners like Roger Holmes tells me he's working on the damage to his back porch before he starts picking up the broken tree limbs that are all over his front yard. He's thankful that the tornado wasn't any stronger.
A historical landmark in Corpus Christi is getting a fresh start.
Construction is underway for the Littles Martin House in Heritage Park. The home, originally built in the early 1900s, used to belong to Hattie Littles, who is considered to be one of the first black natives in Corpus Christi. The original site of the home is unknown, but it was moved to North Staples Street in 1918. Then in 1986, it was moved to Heritage Park and was restored by the NAACP to serve as its headquarters. After being damaged, the decision was made to completely renovate. The changes are part of a larger $1 million project to preserve the historical significance of homes in Heritage Park. They're currently working on the inside right now. Construction is expected to be done in spring 2026.
All right, good morning. A bit of a slow commute on this Monday. You've earned the cafecito, especially for those who have been up early because of the storms caused causing all of this rainfall. But we are drying up here along SPID. Just be careful. Leave early so you can give yourself enough time to take it slowly. We'll check now on how things are doing across the bays here. Portland to downtown Corpus Christi. No delays to report along 181. Once you get onto the Corpus Christi side, we've seen stop and go for those roadways near downtown, but no major delays at this point. Around the area from the Bay Area to the south side, all the major thoroughfares are looking good. It's the Bluff where we've had a slow commute to NAS Corpus Christi. That's been improving. Speeds now up to around 20 miles per hour, and these backups don't go as far down NAS Drive, so that is definitely much better. The rest of the Bluff looking pretty typical for a morning commute. In the ride out to the island, we've seen from the city's cameras out that way some ponding on the shoulder of Park Road 22 at times. So give yourself some extra time so you can take this trek slowly, but it looks like a smooth ride up 361. As you head out, make sure you stay safe and drive safe. I've got another check of your forecast coming up.
Now, 6 things to know before you go.
All right, folks, here are the 6 things you need to know before heading out the door.
The suspect in the Minnesota lawmaker shootings is now in custody. 57-year-old Vance Bolter is accused of killing Democratic State House member Melissa Hortman and her husband at the Brooklyn Park home early Saturday. Now, Bolter is also accused of wounding State Senator John Hoffman and his wife only a few miles away. A massive manhunt for Bolter was launched involving federal, state, and local law enforcement, and the 43-hour search was described as the largest manhunt in Minnesota history.
Well, President Donald Trump has ordered Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents to do everything in their power to carry out the single largest mass deportation program in history. The president made that announcement on social media as he traveled on Air Force One to Canada for the G7 summit. The president's call to action comes just a day after organizers of the nationwide protest called No Kings, as well as the Dump the Clown demonstrations, were held in more than 2,000 cities and towns across the United States.
Iran launched another massive barrage of drones and missiles at Israeli cities early yesterday. Sirens wailed through the night as missiles struck Tel Aviv, Haifa, and other cities. The military has widened its targets to include oil depots, missile systems, and nuclear infrastructure. At least 150 people have been killed since the fighting began, with hundreds more wounded.
Well, the Corpus Christi International Airport became a temporary home for many travelers overnight. The late-night storm caused a number of flight delays. Flights were also redirected to the airport, with some of the passengers stranded there, having flights delayed up to 19 hours.
Corpus Christi police continue their crackdown on reckless drivers. Over the weekend, CCPD arrested at least 3 drivers. 2 drivers were arrested for reckless driving along Ocean Drive, and a 3rd driver was arrested near Airline in Williams for reckless driving. The 3 of them are facing multiple charges.
Well, starting tonight at 9, the connector ramp from northbound State Highway 286 to northbound I-37 will be closed due to overnight signal installation. If you happen to be driving that way around that time, seek an alternate route to access I-37. The closure is until 6 a.m. Tuesday morning. Message signs will be posted to alert drivers of the ramp closure. Remember that all work is weather permitting as well.
And speaking of weather, despite the stormy start, this is not how the rest of our Monday is going to look. In fact, we got better rain chances coming our way later this week. So here's what's going on right now to help you get up and out the door safely. First off, it's Monday. Let's take it slow. We have some wet roadways out there because of overnight rain. And right now, the heaviest downpour is happening in Claiborne County near Baffin Bay. That's where you see the yellows, oranges, and reds. So with a closer look here, you can tell that 37 is not going to be a fun ride between Kingsville and Riviera. Thankfully, we're not seeing much for slowdowns in our traffic maps, but still a good idea to take it slow. There's a lot of ponding that can happen on the roads when you have heavy rainfall like this. Up in northern portions of Nueces and southern San Patricio counties, not seeing a whole lot going on here. At times, there's still rainfall across portions of Port Aransas here, though things are dry once you get on the other side of that ferry ride. Rockport about to get another shower moving into the area. And from Robstown, you're getting skipped by the rain right now, but there is an extent of rain that goes all the way back towards Sinton. So just keep in mind, you might need the wipers this morning, but throughout the rest of today, not likely going to be the case. Still, if we look with the Chris 6 Neighborhood Weather Network, we've picked up a good deal of rain. In Robstown alone, about 2/10 of an inch of rainfall from both of our neighborhood stations here off Spring Creek Drive and River Trail Drive. And as we look at Kingsville right now, anywhere from a ½ inch to nearly an inch of rainfall just from this very heavy downpour associated with this thunderstorm this morning. So take it easy out on the roadways. And don't fear, if you're trying to go for a walk with your favorite four-legged friend, it should be a good one. Our star today is Shelby. Loves to go for that walk at Bill Witt Park. And don't worry, I think we'll have another photo op like this with sunshine on the way. We just need to make the afternoon walk shorter and perhaps a few more of them because the heat is going to come on quickly. Near 90 degrees by lunchtime. We'll have a breeze anywhere from 15 to 20 miles per hour this afternoon, which will help us out because it feels like temperatures will be in those triple digits for much of the afternoon. So check in on those kids, pets, and the elderly as they are more likely to be impacted with heat-related illness. But aside from this morning, showers and storms, those will wind down to a much drier day. And then the second half of the week brings us plentiful rain chances for widely scattered showers and storms from about Wednesday on into the weekend. We start to get a bit far out in the forecast by then, so it's something I'm keeping an eye on. But either way, repetitive rain chances are good because it's going to help chip away at our drought, improve conditions at our reservoirs, and overall keep the temperatures a little bit cooler. Not bad for the first couple of days of summer as we head on into this weekend, but still very scattered in nature with this rainfall, so it won't be an all-day thing, and it's something we'll look forward to after temperatures in the middle 90s through the midweek.
So flipped homes can be a tempting choice for home buyers looking for something move-in ready, right? But behind that fresh paint and shiny finishes, not everything may be as it seems. Scripps News Group consumer reporter John Matarese tells us what you should know before heading to the closing.
Buying a flipped home with great curb appeal and new fixtures can be a home buyer's dream. Unfortunately, in some cases, what lies beneath the surface and behind the walls can turn into a home buyer's worst nightmare.
Helen Mullen is trying to make the best of a bad situation. Inside the dream house she just bought from a home flipping company.
It had a new kitchen, it had new bathrooms.
But the dream quickly faded. In the kitchen, when she turned on the fan,
we lost power on this entire side of the house.
Then a few days later, washing dishes.
Within about 10 seconds, the drain starts backing up.
All the drains stopped working. When she called a plumber,
they told us that we had a real big problem.
Her sewer line was clogged with tree roots. Total repair bill, almost $20,000. Nick Romico, founder of the International Association of Certified Home Inspectors, says a home inspection is one place where it's worth spending extra, even when buyers are focused on cutting costs.
I think we're going to get to a home inspection where you're spending only hundreds of dollars to look at something that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's time to stop thinking like that.
If you're worried about a conflict of interest between the inspector and realtor, find an inspector outside your area. For a slightly higher cost, hire a certified master inspector. They have 3 years of extra training. Pay for extra services to avoid potential problems like radon testing or having the sewer line checked. Romico says home buyers should know that flippers prioritize profit, often which could mean cutting corners or hiding problems.
Somebody knew there was a problem and didn't tell the next person, so we got stuck with it.
So get a thorough inspection so you don't waste your money. John Matarese, Scripps News Group.
I'm Erin Hawley, your Padre Island neighborhood news reporter here at the Texas Sea Life Center. Where I'm standing in this popular attraction will soon house a brand new animal hospital. The Texas Sea Life Center has been on Padre Island since 2012, and volunteers like Amanda Terry say they've been waiting a long time for renovations to the center. A new animal hospital will allow the volunteers to rehabilitate even more injured sea turtles, birds, and much more. The Texas Sea Life Center has a long-term lease with Nueces County. That's why the county is supplying them with ARPA funds and a grant for their expansions. And Terry says that $500,000 will go a long way and will even indirectly help with the popular sea turtle releases.
I'm Tony Jaramillo, your neighborhood news reporter in Flower Bluff. According to this source, almost 30% of Texas children live with no father present in the home. And I spoke to one local nonprofit who is trying to change that trend. Majesty Outdoors is a faith-based mentorship program focused on reaching kids growing up without dads. This source says about 37% of households in Nueces County are led by a single parent. Another source estimates 80% of those are fatherless. That means nearly 1 in 3 households in our area have no father figure at home. Studies link father absence to higher rates of poverty, crime, substance abuse, and dropping out of school. They match volunteers with youth who lack a father figure with activities like fishing trips, camping, and even scuba certification. This Majesty Outdoors location is set to have its grand opening on October 3rd. In Flower Bluff, I'm your neighborhood news reporter, Tony Jaramillo, Chris 6 News.
So the Gulf Coast Humane Society will be hosting a mobile pet food distribution event this week. It'll take place on Friday from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. over the Coastal Bend Food Bank. The food for dog, puppies, cats, and kittens will be available while supplies last. Max of 4 pets per household. Please leave your pets at home, though. The Coastal Bend Food Bank is located at 5442 Bear Lane.
Now, we want to say thank you to everyone who took part in our annual Flag for a Flag event. All of those flags that were exchanged for a new flag on Friday will now be honorably retired. The flag retirement ceremony will be held this morning at 10 at the Coastal Bend State Veterans Cemetery, and of course, the public is welcome to attend. You can also watch it on christv.com.
On to what's trending now, How to Train Your Dragon. That's a global box office success. Like the animated original, it tells the tale of an unlikely bond between a Viking boy and a dragon. The live-action remake soared to an $83.7 million debut. The first How to Train Your Dragon opened to roughly $64.5 million. We are following developing news in Flower Bluff. Fire crews are working on a fire in the 200 block of Lakeside Drive. We have a crew headed that way right now. We're going to have the very latest online at christv.com and in the noon news at noon.
Yes, now let's check in with meteorologist Stephanie Lauber for a look at our forecast. We had a stormy start to our day, right?
Yeah. We sure did. Not exactly the best kind of commute for a Monday. A lot of folks have been commenting as we've been putting out weather alerts on Facebook throughout the evening and into early this morning about even these winds, which were not at a severe level, meeting the criteria. It's specific. Still blowing over trees, causing tree branches to fall, and some power outages, of course. We put those things together, and that can make for a very troublesome start to the day, but it is going to get better. Weather will improve. However, we're still tracking heavy downpours even as this rain starts to wind down. So zooming into where the worst of it is right now, it's over Clayburgh County, mostly over Baffin Bay. So this is really impacting the communities along Baffin Bay, but the Kingsville area is starting to see that intense rainfall move to the south and move into the Riviera area. Either way, travels along 77 between these two towns is going to be a bit tricky, so give yourself enough time to leave early this morning. That way you can go slower and avoid any kind of surprises that might be along your commute this morning, including some of the ponding we've seen throughout Nueces County, Corpus Christi, out on the south side, and even on the island. We showed you toward the beginning of this newscast some very flooded shoulders along Park Road 22 in Aquarius. So we had a lot of rain fall in a short amount of time. When it rains, it pours here across South Texas. You want to make sure that you're getting there safe. And while we still have rain falling across the bays right now, 181 going to be a bit of a rainy commute along the Harbor Bridge. Things are starting to wind down. The last of the rainfall in our northern neighborhoods, spanning from Port Aransas up into the Rockport area. This will all dry out. We're starting to see that from our downtown studio Skycam. Here's a view of a thunderstorm to our north across the bay. And so while we still have wet pavement, things are winding down, and a different forecast awaits us later through today. It involves some sunshine. So while we see things improving throughout this morning, it's off to a cool start thanks to that rain-cooled air. We're in the 70s, but it's going to get hot this afternoon. So for the dog walk, make sure that you are going for more frequent but shorter walks. That way your pup can deal with the heat. This is Shelby. Loves to go for that walk at Bill Witt Park. So I think we'll be able to take another sunny photo like what we've got here as things begin to clear out. Mix of sun and clouds. Temperatures rebounding to around 90 degrees by lunchtime. And keep in mind, there is that humidity that factors into things. And so we'll be feeling like the triple digits as we head through the hottest hours of the day, which, as you see here, spans from about 2 o'clock to, say, 5 o'clock this afternoon. That's the hottest part of your Monday ahead. And the trend over the next 7 days is pretty similar for our neighbors in the Rockport area, seeing those temperatures hang out real close to 90 degrees, even as we head into the end of the week where rainfall becomes more likely there. In the Kingsville area, same deal. We could get to 98 degrees as we head through Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, but we'll trade things on the hot side to the wet side, with rainfall looking likely not only for Rockport and Kingsville, but also for Corpus Christi for the tail end of the week. Some are going to be off to a wet start, it seems, as we get scattered showers and thunderstorms. This is not an all-day thing, but multiple rounds of rainfall is exactly what the doctor ordered these days, because it helps to chip away at our drought, helps to improve those suffering lake levels, which already in the past week we've seen huge improvements with more rainfall in the mix. So something to keep in mind. We're going to be focusing on heat risk this afternoon, Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday afternoon, and eventually toward the end of the week, things really starting to improve, and in terms of some of the dry weather we've seen across the coastal bend. I don't know if anyone else has this kind of thing penciled in on the calendar, but this past Saturday we marked 3 years under water restrictions for Corpus Christi water customers, and so it's nice to have some decent rainfall, good drink of rain in the forecast, because at this point it's going to take multiple heavy downpours to get some of this worst of the water restrictions chipping away. And rainfall, like what we've seen during the overnight, can be problematic because the heavy downpours at once, that's not exactly what we need, but it does help water run off into the waterways that help to chip away the problem. So overall, all the good things considered.
Yeah, thanks so much, Steph. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you at noon. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.